Hello and welcome to Bucs Insider, coming to you from the Bucs studio, presented by Ticketmaster. I'm Scott Smith, senior writer and editor, and with me is staff writer reporter Brianna Dix. Hi, Bri.
Hello, hello.
You'll see also that Casey Phillips is not with us today, and that's because she had the audacity to disagree with me last week about onside kicks, so I banished her.
So she's cut off.
You agreed with me, fortunately for you.
I did.
No, unfortunately, I don't have that kind of power, and Casey's just enjoying some well-deserved time off, and she'll be back with us next week after she's had some time to think about her wrong opinions.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we got plenty to talk about because we got the second week of OTAs. You've been walking the sidelines, watching every play. You've heard the guys talk after practice. Give me some idea of what you've seen and heard. I know that SirVocea Dennis has continued to flash.
Yes. So throughout the first week of OTAs, Todd Bowles was asked kind of the player that's impressed him the most, and emphatically he said it's been SirVocea Dennis. He's gotten his hands on the most balls, but also he said he's in the best shape that he's been in since he's been in Tampa Bay, coming off that shoulder injury and surgery, but he's also kind of taken on the ownership of that Mike linebacker role, making the calls, getting guys lined up, which is the position that he played predominantly at Pittsburgh for Pat Narduzzi. Kind of dropping in coverage more. We saw his ability on blitzes during his small sample size last season before the injury. So I'm excited to see what he's able to do kind of throughout, especially mandatory minicamp, how he looks with Lavonte David and kind of how that checks out.
That blitzing thing is an interesting topic because he was good at that at Pitt.
Right.
And you've seen through the years with Lavonte, there's been some seasons where we've used him a lot to go into the backfield.
Right.
And then Devin White came and he was really good at that.
Yeah.
So Lavonte really wasn't used much in that role. But then last year, they were blitzing him again, and he was really good at it again.
Right.
But maybe he won't have to do it as much with SirVocea as an option. The other thing you were talking about is his coverage ability, which is something that I think the Bucs, middle of the Bucs defense last year was lacking a little bit.
Yeah.
It's an area that I think they wanted to improve, and Anthony Walker coming in could help there too. But that's something that SirVocea appears to be very good at. We'll see if with a full sample size. But he talked a little bit about how he's developed that coverage ability. So let's listen to what he had to say.
Growing up, I played a lot of different positions, so I think that definitely helped. But no, it's just the feel of the game, really. You have to understand where guys want to attack you. You have to understand, certain coverages, but also certain times and certain plays that the offense likes to attack you on the certain plays of the field. So I think once you understand that pretty well, it's pretty much easy to know where they want the ball to go. And then if you know how to manipulate the quarterback in front of you, it's just that much better. So
we saw that last week. Voss had an interception, or just one or maybe two. I don't know.
I think one.
Okay, but they're not really all that common in practice. But Deion Jones had one on Tuesday that Coach Bowles pointed out and started to say some nice things about Deion Jones. And he's like, I don't want to give him too big of a head. But one of the funny things, or one of the surprise things that Coach Bowles said after practice on Tuesday, he was asked which positions are deepest on each side of the ball. And the one on offense is like wide receiver. Yeah, it's obvious. Yeah. I was really surprised to hear him say inside linebacker on defense because I felt like going into the offseason that was really a position where the Buccaneers needed some infusion of talent. But I guess when you think about it, you got SirVocea back and fully healthy for the first time, and you've got Anthony Walker, and then Deion Jones, if he has something left in the tank. I mean, when he was at his peak, he was one of the better linebackers in the NFL and really good in coverage. And then even all the way down to a guy like Nick Jackson, an undrafted free agent who impressed on a trial contract and had about 1 million tackles in college. So maybe there is some depth there, and that'd be good to know. So that was good to hear from him. And then also Antoine Winfield also spoke. I think that Antoine Winfield is probably a really good bounce-back candidate.
I think so, too.
Right? I mean, last year he was the All-Pro in 2023, made every play known to man, a turnover machine, filled up the stat line with everything you can think of. And then last year only got to play in, I think, 9 games, missed some time with foot and knee injuries. And if he's healthy now, both he and Coach says, if he can get back to where he was in 2023, that can make a really big difference for the Buccaneers defense.
Well, I think in terms of just, and Todd Bowles even emphasized, like injuries played such a major part of that. But I think if you get peak form, you get Antoine Winfield Jr. at full health, he's arguably the best safety in the league, is a guy that can do it all, whether it's, kind of being in the post or coming up to the line of scrimmage. And I think he really thrives in a system that Todd Bowles has where you're kind of asked to do so many different things and kind of is a quarterback on the defense and kind of helping get everything squared away. So I'm excited to see what he does this season.
On the other side of the ball, another guy who talked on Tuesday was Cade Otton, who just is Mr. Reliable, right? Just does everything right. Is on the field for every play. What did you hear from him? And how does he feel about this offense now that it's under control of Josh Grizzard?
Well, I loved all throughout the offseason. A lot of guys have really talked about just kind of the continuity, the familiarity with the system already. But I love that he really emphasized. So last year under Liam Cohen, Josh Grizzard was in charge of third downs. The Bucs led the NFL in third down conversion percentage. But Cade really emphasized that on those third downs, they were really confident. They felt good in the looks that they were going to get, being ready, and then out on the field, he said, you saw the production that we were able to have. So I think now having that confidence, having that familiarity with him, the system, the verbiage now, kind of what that's going to be able to translate is they hone in on some of these details and add in new wrinkles.
Speaking of familiarity, every player in that room, in that tight end room with Cade, is back from last year. Like, no change whatsoever in the position. And he was pointing out that he thinks that's kind of rare to have the exact same group back.
Yeah.
No changes, no additions, no subtractions. And, I think he said they want to take pride. They've got the same guys, right? So they developed this relationship in there, and they talk about stuff. And in that tight room, they've been talking about how they want to take pride in being the best executors on offense. So, you've got, if you look at the positions, tight end is kind of star-studded, right? I mean, wide receiver's kind of star-studded, right? And Baker Mayfield's the charismatic leader. But Cade, predictably, wants his group to be, we do everything right. We execute exactly as we're supposed to. Yeah. And part of that is because it's the same guys back for a couple of them, back for 3 or 4 years in a row, right?
Right. Well, and I think, I can't remember, was it in one of the pressers at the end of last season, I think it was maybe Todd Bowles or one of the position coaches that said that the tight end room had the least amount of mental errors
there you go.
On the field last year. So
just do it again, right. Run it right back. All right, so this is the second and last week of OTAs, which is phase 3 of the offseason program, which ends, as always, with a mandatory minicamp next week, right? 3 days, 3 practices.
Yes.
I think. And
it's going to be a little toasty.
Yeah, and the Buccaneers have had good turnout for the voluntary part, as they generally do. I think through the years, some of the veterans have realized that this is probably more important, the OTAs at this time of the year is more important for the younger guys, and they don't necessarily need to be out there getting reps. Like the other day, Levante David and Vita Vea were here, but they didn't practice. Mike Evans doesn't need to come to every OTA, stuff like that. We haven't really seen a lot of Hassan Reddick yet, stuff like that. So the mandatory minicamp will be great because presumably
it's everybody
91 guys will be here, right? So I was thinking that you and I could both look ahead to next week's minicamp, which is going to be the most like an in-season practice of anything that we do in the offseason. Still really can't have real contact, but you get what I mean. So let's talk about a couple guys on each side of the ball that you're really interested in seeing. So you go ahead and start with somebody on offense.
So on offense, I'm going to go with a little bit of an under-the-radar guy, but I'm excited to see 7th-round pick Tez Johnson. I think just with the competition in that room, with first-round pick Emeka Egbuka, but I think just really throughout rookie minicamp, throughout OTAs, he's made a lot of kind of those highlight reel catches.
Oh, okay.
And he's a guy that at Oregon was electric with the ball in his hands, has the speed, is going to be lethal on screens, but has that ability to stop and start on a dime, and really kind of has a little bit when you watch him. I mean, he was a guy that watched Bucky Irving highlights, and really became one of the, I think, finished in top 5 in Oregon history in terms of catches and receiving yards, and with 2 different quarterbacks at that. So I'm excited to see kind of what he's able to do in the offense and kind of his ability to juke people a little bit, a little that mirrors Bucky Irving a little bit.
7th-round draft picks historically are no lock to make the roster.
Exactly.
But I feel like the Bucs and even some outside observers feel like he was kind of a steal in the 7th round, and as long as he can demonstrate that ability he showed in college of just being able to get open, and then the big plays, the Bucs will probably find some kind of way to keep him around. And when it comes down to, hey, can we put him on the practice squad? You always have to worry, will somebody you have to waive them and submit them to the waiver wire if you're going to try to do that. So you have to worry about somebody picking him up. So it'll be interesting to see if he shows enough, kind of like Cam Johnson did last year as an undrafted free agent, to where when you get to the end of the camp, you're like, we have to keep this guy.
Right.
So another guy from last year, late round draft pick, Devin Culp is the one I would highlight. Just because we were talking about those tight ends, they're all back. We saw at the end of last year when there were some injuries that Devin Culp got a chance to play, and he really did flash that big playability that made the Bucs draft him. You know, at Washington, he didn't have gigantic numbers, but you could see in what he did do that he had some downfield ability, contested catches, run after the catch ability. So it'll be interesting to see just a little glimpse. We'll see more in camp, but just a little glimpse of who's he running with. Is Devin Culp getting, big passes from Baker Mayfield, or is it all from, Michael Pratt? I mean, I didn't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying, is he running with the first team at some point? I know they mix and match a lot at this point of the year, but, are the Bucs looking at Devin Culp as somebody they can use a little bit more throughout the year than they did last year?
Right.
Okay, now give me somebody you're looking for on defense.
On defense, I'm going to go with Tyke Smith. Obviously you have kind of the vacancy up for grabs opposite Antoine Winfield Jr. Nick Rapone said that Tyke Smith has been cross-training at both strong safety and nickel. We saw his ability at nickel last year and kind of some of the things that he was able to do, but it's a guy that has, the downhill trigger. Coaches have raved about his high football IQ, kind of his awareness in zone, but also that the route recognition of man. And I think just really is a guy that can do it all, and Todd Bowles can weaponize in a variety of ways. So I think he is a guy that's really going to make an impact throughout mandatory minicamp, is going to potentially earn one of those starting roles.
Yeah, he struck me. I know he had some injury issues last year as well. Played mostly in the slot, but he feels like a guy the Buccaneers are going to want to have on the field some way or another because he has that sort of Antoine Winfield-like big play innate ability, and the Bucs need more of that in their secondary, right? Absolutely. I would talk about Hassan Reddick simply because I think that was one of the most important additions the Buccaneers made in the offseason to address what was definitely an area of concern. That's getting more consistent pressure off the edges. And, they got David Walker in the draft to help with that as well, and he's looked good so far. But Hassan Reddick could be a really important part of this defense kind of getting back to where it was under Todd Bowles, and allowing Todd Bowles to not necessarily have to create extra pressure with blitzes or, he's great
being able
at
to get it with 4.
Obviously, Todd Bowles is great at generating pressure in exotic ways, and the Bucs were still tied for 7th in sacks last year, but they need more consistent 4-man rush pressure off the edges, and so how Hassan Reddick produces, if he's like he was in the 5 seasons before last season, could really make a big change in what the Bucs can do on defense. So getting our first real prolonged look at him is what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
All right. Also this week we had it's called, it used to be Cut for the Cure. It's Cut and Color Funds the Cure. This is a great event that the Buccaneers have been doing for 11 years now. And we saw, and what I loved about it was so many guys participated. And then a little bit, I want to listen here a little bit to what Cade Otton had to say afterwards, because this has touched his life. And then he went there, and you'll see in the video, he got his hair colored. So let's hear what this event meant to Cade Otton.
It's so cool. I think most of us know people who have gone through cancer, and it's touched our lives, and just to be able to go in there and see the smiles on these kids' faces, and just be able to brighten their day a little bit, and they brighten our day. And so this is just a fun event, and also just a way to connect with some people who are going through hard things.
Right, obviously that meant a lot to him, but you've kind of been paying attention to this event. Give me a little bit of idea of what happened.
This honestly is one of my favorite events every single year, but there was 20 pediatric cancer patients that came out, colored, dyed hair, beards. My favorite was that they get so into it right up. There were some guys that the mouth was open, probably got a little excess in there.
Don't want that.
But just to see the smile on their faces, Todd Bowles, Jason Light coming out and getting it colored every single year, guys laughing, it's definitely supportive and kind of helps fight against childhood cancer.
Yeah, I was really impressed with how many guys. But I think it's fun. It's fun, and it's an easy event to get on board with, and so it's great that all the guys took part in that. So I'm sure we'll be back doing that again next year for the 12th year in a row.
More
and
crazy
we'll
hairdos.
also be back next week. Probably Casey will be with us if I let her come back, and we'll come to you again. We'll talk about mandatory minicamp.
Yes.